coming to us from Northern California, from the Occidental Arts and Ecology Center. Thank you. And I've actually seen him speak before. He's a fabulous speaker, not to build him up too much or he'll float away. But he's spoken about watersheds and permaculture throughout California, throughout the U.S., and most recently he's been traveling to Costa Rica, Brazil, and very recently China, to learn about different watersheds, to learn about the way different countries approach water, and also to let people in other nations know what we're doing here. I've been really impressed when I've seen him speak before about the poetic way he has of discussing a variety of technical issues related to water and the connections between water and humanity. So, Brock, take it away. Are you okay with projecting today?
I think I can holler.
Yep.
You gonna catch me back there? All right. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Greetings from Redwood Country and Wine Country, Sonoma County. Just flew down last night. Yeah, we should talk about those, sure. How's that look? See it all the way back there? Loan you binoculars. So my name is Brock Dolman, and again, I live up in Occidental at this Occidental Arts and Ecology Center, which is a nonprofit environmental education institute. It's actually an 80-acre piece of land that I live on with 10 other people. We all co-own it as a consensus-based collective community. So I live on a glorified hippie commune at this point, and we have a bunch of work we do there. It's a great life. I would recommend it if you can figure it out. So my primary caveat to lead off with here is I'm not a hydrologist, I'm not an engineer, I'm not an architect, I'm a biologist. And I come to this work, biology by definition is someone who studies life. Biology, a studier of life. And as somebody who was trying to figure out snakes and frogs and turtles and birds and trees and plants, I got pretty clear that water became the critical element of life. And so I get into this work of water and human land use, mostly coming around trying to understand how to find a symbiotic relationship between human settlements, development, and living systems so that we can all benefit from that world. The title of this talk is this idea of basins of relations, and how do we think like a watershed, and I'll try to define more what watershed is and the concept of the relationships we share within the basins we live in. One of the programs I have at OAC there is this Water Institute. And you can see it's an acronym. So I'm interested in watershed and advocacy, training, education, and research and restoration around the realm of water itself and primacy of water. I guess one myth I'd love to dispel for you is the sense that you've all probably been told that this being here is called planet Earth. I think really it's much more appropriately should be understood as planet water. Right? This is really, if we search around the universe, we look around there, we're spending all kind of money going to Mars, seeing if we can't find little bits of some frozen remnant of water. And, whoa, baby, we got it. We live on planet water. This is the place, and we should try to better honor that. There's something essential about water. And so I want to begin this talk by kind of pulling us way back and just examining and honoring for a bit the realm of water. So on the planet, 70% of the surface area of the planet is covered by water. If you take the total volume of water, then 97% of it is basically in the sea. Salt water, it's ocean water. Then you got the other 2% in the poles, Arctic, Antarctica, some of the glacier caps, some really deep groundwater stuff. And then 1% of the total water on the planet at any one point in time is cycling through as fresh water. Interestingly, in our post-industrial era, last 150 years or so, of the 1% fresh water on the planet, we've polluted half of that water already. So we've got a bit of a setup, I think, as far as what we're dealing with. Now, certainly the scientific community tells us water's a molecule, right? It's got the two hydrogens, the oxygen. I think most people are pretty clear, especially down here near LA, it's a protocol. It's the magic Mickey Mouse molecule. It's got these hydrogen ears, oxygen face, right? It's got the plus charges on the hydrogen, this negative charge on the oxygen. It's a polar molecule. It's got bipolar issues, you can say. It has to have these therapy sessions, right? It's kind of worse than bipolarity. It's actually tripolar. I mean, imagine the substance. It's got this ocean phase, it's got a gaseous phase, it's got a solid phase, it's moving, it's cycling. It's not sure. Is it a solid? Is it a liquid? Is it a gas? Is it condensing? Is it evaporating? Is it precipitating? Is it sublimating? I mean, imagine for a second you're a molecule that can be a solid, a liquid, or a gas, as a beautiful crystalline solid like a snowflake, that as a solid, it floats on its liquid self. We're super happy that that's the case. If solid water sank, I think all bets are off that life as we currently know it would exist at all. The fact that the molecule expands and floats as a solid, that sunlight can hit a solid and turn it into a gas without even becoming a liquid, or it can strike the liquid or solid, turn it into a gas, back to a liquid or a solid, and create that cycle, is pretty impressive. And I hear a lot of folks talk about sustainability. And when I talk about sustainability, I want to unpack that term and ask, what are we striving to have the ability to sustain? And my answer for you would be the cycles of life. If through our development practices we are compromising the cycles of life, our presence in that place will be more challenged. And the hydrologic cycle, which is the subject I'm on today, is the great cycle to figure out. So there's a sense that water's a noun, if you will, a solid, a liquid, a gas, a thing. And then there's a sense that water's a verb, there's flow, there's dynamism, there's movement. And there's a classic phrase out there in many of the landscape architecture, design field is very into. This idea that form follows function. And so when we look at the expression of forms in the world, water is one of the great sculptors of the planet. It's one of the great givers of form on the planet. And this was just some picture I took along Tamales Bay up in Marin County. So you've got low tide channel here and a high tide channel. Same channel. But the interesting thing is that we live on this round ball that's spinning. It's got another big round ball called the moon that's going around us monthly. And we happen to be going around another ball called the sun. Right? So there's these big loop-de-loop-de-loop-des going on. And there's this gravitational pull of the belt of water that twice a day there's a high tide and a low tide. Right? That's this waste of water wrapping the entire planet. And every interface of ocean and estuary on the planet is exhaling and inhaling aqueously on every square inch of every surface area of this planet along these oceanic areas. And you've got tides in your body that are being pulled the same way, and the soil's got tides, and vegetation has tides like that. And how do we engage in the fact that naturally water wants to wiggle? Water's a naturally undulatory and crenellated and sinuous, serpentine, supple and slightly sinuous expression when it is allowed to do what it wants to do, in its form following its function. And if you look at the largest scale on up, like here's the planet, these are a computer simulation of the currents out in the ocean. Florida and up eastern seaboard, the great current heading up there, bring all that warm water up. And you see flow and dynamic currents and movement everywhere on the planet.